The automatic doors of Pinewood County Sheriff's Station hissed open at 3:47 a.m., shattering the eerie quiet of a sleepy California night. A golden retriever, its fur matted with mud and crusted with salt, staggered across the chipped linoleum floor, each step a labored scrape. The dog's ribs jutted beneath its coat, and its paws, raw and bleeding, left faint red smears. Clenched in its jaws was a kid's backpack, faded pink, shredded at the seams, reeking of seawater and despair. It collapsed near the reception desk, a low whine escaping its throat, dark eyes glinting with a desperate, almost human plea. Deputy Jake Torres, 26, froze mid-sip of his burnt coffee, the mug trembling in his hand. "Jesus H. Christ," he muttered, vaulting over the counter. "Where'd this dog come from? It's half dead." The fluorescent lights flickered, casting jagged shadows across the lobby. Outside, a restless wind howled through the pines, rattling the windows of the station 150 miles inland from the nearest coast. Sergeant Martha Hayes, pushing 60 and unflappable after decades on the job, knelt beside the dog, her knees creaking. She pried the backpack from its jaws, her fingers brushing against damp canvas that felt wrong, like it had been buried and clawed free. "Easy, buddy," she murmured, stroking the dog's matted fur. Its collar, weathered but oddly pristine, bore a tag engraved with a name, Luna, and an address. 214 Seacrest Lane, Crescent Bay, California. Martha's breath hitched. "Jake, this ain't no stray. Give me the missing persons database now." Jake scrambled to his computer, his boots squeaking on the floor. "Crescent Bay? That's that beach town, right? With the old lighthouse?" His fingers flew over the keyboard, pulling up files. "Holy Martha, you're not gonna believe this. Luna Harper, golden retriever, reported missing with her family Jack, Emily, and Lily Harper the 15th of July, 2022. Whole damn family vanished at Crescent Bay Beach. Car found abandoned, keys in the ignition, no trace." Martha unzipped the backpack, her hands steady but her gut churning. Inside was a mess of damp treasures. A handful of seashells, their edges sharp and pearlescent, the kind you'd only find on Crescent Bay's rocky shores. A crumpled drawing, scrawled in crayon, showing twisting tunnels and rooms carved into earth, and a scrap of paper, torn from a notebook, with words scratched in a kid's shaky hand. "They're still alive. Find the caves under the lighthouse." The words hit like a punch, raw and urgent, as if written in a frantic race against time. "Jake, call the feds," Martha snapped, her voice low but edged with steel. "This is bigger than us." She spread the drawing on the desk, her eyes narrowing at a symbol etched in the corner, a circle pierced by 3 diagonal slashes, like claw marks. It tugged at a memory, something she'd seen years ago, buried in the station's dusty archives. "I've seen this before," she whispered, half to herself. "Back in '98, that kid who went missing near Crescent Bay." Luna whimpered, struggling to her feet, her gaze locked on Martha like she understood every word. The dog's raw paws scraped the floor, and she nosed the drawing, whining louder, as if begging them to move faster. Jake, still on the phone with the FBI field office, glanced over, his face pale. "Martha, those shells, they're fresh. No way they've been sitting around for 3 years. Someone's been collecting them." Martha's heart pounded, the air in the station suddenly thick, oppressive. The flickering lights buzzed louder, and the wind outside screamed like a warning. She traced the symbol on the drawing, her finger trembling. "This ain't just about the Harpers," she said, her voice barely audible over the hum of the station's old heater. "Something's been going on in Crescent Bay for a long time." She looked at Luna, whose eyes burned with a fierce, unrelenting purpose. "What the hell's hiding under that lighthouse?" The lights flickered one last time, plunging the station into darkness for a split second. When they buzzed back on, Martha's gaze snapped to the drawing. The symbol seemed to pulse, almost alive. "This can't be happening again," she whispered, her words swallowed by the wind's mournful wail. The 15th of July, 2022, Crescent Bay Beach shimmered under a relentless California sun, the air thick with salt and the laughter of kids chasing waves. Jack Harper, 38, a marine biologist with sun-bleached hair, hauled a cooler packed with cold beers and sandwiches, his sneakers sinking into the scorching sand. His wife, Emily, 36, an elementary school teacher with a knack for calming chaos, spread a faded blue blanket near the dunes, her eyes scanning for their daughter, Lily. At 10, Lily was a whirlwind of energy, her ponytail bouncing as she darted along the shoreline, her shell-collecting bag slung over her shoulder. Luna, their golden retriever, trotted at her heels, nose twitching at every washed-up treasure. The beach buzzed with families, the kind of perfect summer day that made Crescent Bay feel like a postcard. But something felt off. The old lighthouse, perched on the cliffs 200 yards north, loomed like a silent sentinel, its cracked windows glinting in the sunlight. Locals whispered about idyls of sand spirits and folks vanishing near its shadow. Jack brushed it off, but Emily's gut twisted every time she glanced at it. Too many ghost stories, she muttered, slathering sunscreen on her arms. Caleb Ward, 50, the beach patrol chief, strolled over, his weathered face splitting into a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. His sun-darkened skin and easy swagger made him a fixture here, a hero who'd pulled kids from riptides and reunited lost toddlers with frantic moms. "Mornin' Harpers," he called, tipping his faded cap. "Lily hunting shells again?" Those cliffs by the lighthouse toss up some real gems, rare conchs, even. Lily's eyes lit up, clutching her bag. "Really, mister? Caleb? Luna and I are gonna find a conch today. I bet." Emily frowned, brushing sand off her shorts. "Caleb, those cliffs safe for kids? I don't want her getting swept by a rogue wave." Caleb's laugh was warm, disarming. "Safe as houses, Emily. I've got eyes on every inch of this beach. Just stick close to your folks, Lily, all right?" Jack nodded, trusting Caleb's 20 years of keeping Crescent Bay safe. "Thanks, man. We'll check it out after lunch." By noon, the Harpers munched on sandwiches, Lily chattering about her morning finds a perfect scallop shell and a sand dollar the size of her palm. Luna sprawled in the shade, ears twitching at the gulls overhead. At 1:30 p.m., Caleb swung by again, his radio crackling. "Tide shiftin'," he said, squinting at the horizon. "Cliffs are your best bet for shells now. I can show you the safe path if you want." "Lead the way," Jack said, hoisting the cooler. Emily hesitated but followed, her unease drowned by Lily's excitement. Luna bounded ahead, tail wagging, as they trekked 300 feet to the cliffs, the lighthouse's shadow stretching over them like a claw. Other beachgoers waved, some recognizing Lily from her shell hunting fame. No one noticed Caleb's quick glance back, his smile tightening. By 6 p.m., the beach was emptying, the sun sinking into a blood-red haze. Mrs. Evelyn Morse, a 78-year-old widow who lived in a cottage overlooking the bay, noticed the Harpers' old Subaru still in the lot. She'd seen Lily helping her grandkid find shells earlier, the girls' laughter echoing. Now, the car sat abandoned, doors unlocked, keys dangling in the ignition. The cooler, blanket, and Lily's shell bag were untouched, but the family and Luna were gone. Evelyn called the sheriff at 6:17 p.m., her voice shaking. "Something's wrong," she said. "The Harpers' car's here, but they ain't." Deputy Sarah Ruiz arrived by 6:45, her flashlight slicing through the gathering dusk. The Subaru's engine was cold, the sand around it undisturbed. Ruiz found Lily's necklace, a cheap silver chain with a starfish pendant, half buried near the cliffs, crusted with seaweed like it had been spit out by the sea. Search teams scoured the beach, K-9 units tracing the Harpers' scent to a rocky outcrop 50 feet from the lighthouse. Then, nothing. The trail vanished, as if the family had dissolved into the salt air. Caleb led the search, his voice steady on the radio, guiding volunteers through the dunes. They might have wandered too far, he told Ruiz, his face etched with concern. Happens sometimes. Evelyn, watching from her cottage, clutched her tea mug, her eyes fixed on Caleb. "I saw him," she whispered to Ruiz later, her voice barely audible over the crashing waves. He went to those cliffs right after the Harpers. Said he was checking equipment, but she trailed off, her gaze drifting to the lighthouse, its silhouette black against the twilight. That place is cursed. Always has been. The fog clung to Crescent Bay like a shroud, muffling the relentless crash of waves against the cliffs. It was the 17th of July, 2022, 2 days after the Harpers vanished, and the beach was a chaotic hive of search teams, their flashlights slicing through the pre-dawn gloom. Claire Novak, 42, stood at the edge of the parking lot, her boots sinking into the damp sand. A former FBI agent turned private investigator, she'd been hired by Rachel, Emily Harper's sister, to dig where the cops wouldn't eye her. Claire's sharp gray eyes scanned the abandoned Subaru, its keys glinting in the ignition like a taunt. Something about this case gnawed at her, echoing a botched investigation from her FBI days that still haunted her dreams. Claire crouched by the car, her fingers tracing the cold metal. No struggle, no blood, she muttered. They didn't run, they were led. She'd seen enough missing persons cases to know this wasn't a random accident. The Harpers, Jack, Emily, Lily, and their dog Luna had been erased, plucked from the beach like ghosts. Rachel, pacing nearby, clutched a photo of Lily, her voice cracking. Claire, they wouldn't just vanish. Someone took them. I know it. Hold tight, Rachel, Claire said, her tone steady but her gut churning. I'm gonna find out who. She headed toward the cliffs, 200 feet north, where the K9 units had lost the scent. The lighthouse loomed above, its cracked windows staring down like empty eyes. Locals called it cursed, whispering about folks who disappeared near it decades ago. Claire didn't buy ghost stories, but the air felt heavy, oppressive, like the sea itself was holding its breath. Caleb Ward, the beach patrol chief, was directing volunteers, his voice calm but commanding. Check the dunes again, he barked into his radio. They might have wandered off trail. His son, weathered face and easy authority made him a local legend, but Claire caught a flicker in his eyes, something calculated, almost predatory. She approached, notebook in hand. Caleb, you told the Harpers to head to the cliffs, right? Kinda risky for a kid, don't you think? Caleb's smile was smooth, practiced. Claire, I've kept this beach safe for 20 years. If I thought those cliffs were dangerous, I'd have roped them off. I just pointed him to where the best shells wash up. His radio crackled, and he turned away, but not before Claire noticed his hand twitch, like he was hiding something. She didn't push yet. Instead, she slipped into the beach patrol station, a squat building 50 yards from the lighthouse. Inside, it smelled of salt and old coffee. A young patrol officer, Tim, barely 22, was sorting gear. Caleb's been acting weird, he admitted when Claire pressed him. He's always in that storage shed out back at night. Says it's for equipment, but nobody checks. Claire's pulse quickened. She jotted it down, her mind racing. In the station's cluttered archive room, she found a dusty file from 1975, labeled Lighthouse Renovation. It mentioned caves under the cliffs, mapped out by a patrol chief named Amos Reed, Caleb's predecessor, who'd vanished in '98. A faded sketch showed tunnels snaking beneath the lighthouse, marked with a symbolist circle with 3 diagonal slashes. Claire's breath caught. It matched the drawing Luna had carried to the sheriff's station yesterday. What the hell were you building, Amos? She whispered. That night, under a moonless sky, Claire tailed Caleb to the shed, a rusted shack tucked behind the station. The wind howled, masking her footsteps as she crept closer, her Glock holstered but ready. Caleb unlocked the shed, his flashlight beam dancing across the sand. He lifted a trapdoor hidden under a tarp, revealing a dark stairwell descending into the earth. Claire's heart pounded, the air thick with the scent of damp stone and something fouler, like decay. She edged closer, her phone recording, when a sound stopped her cold. A low, guttural whisper from below. Not human, not animal, but something that clawed at her nerves. Caleb, what are you hiding? She hissed under her breath, her hand on her gun. Before she could step forward, the trapdoor slammed shut, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the night. The lighthouse above flickered, its long-dead bulb pulsing once, twice, then plunging back into darkness. Claire froze, her skin prickling, as the whisper grew louder, echoing from the depths. "They're watching," it seemed to say, and she didn't know if it was real or her mind unraveling. The trapdoor creaked open, revealing a yawning void that swallowed Claire Novak's flashlight beam. The air was dank, heavy with the stench of wet stone and something sour, like fear soaked into the earth. Luna, the golden retriever, pressed against Claire's leg, her fur bristling, a low growl rumbling in her throat. Claire's pulse hammered as she descended the narrow stone steps, 40 feet below Crescent Bay's cliffs, her Glock drawn. The walls, slick with condensation, were carved with eerie symbol circles with 3 diagonal slashes, glowing faintly under her light. This wasn't just a cave. It was a labyrinth, a twisted maze, built with sinister purpose. 3 days after Luna staggered into Pinewood County Sheriff's Station, Claire had convinced the feds to let her take the lead, with Luna as her guide. The dog's raw paws were bandaged, but her eyes burned with relentless purpose, as if she knew exactly where to go. The tunnel stretched 100 feet, branching into corridors lit by flickering LEDs. Claire's boots echoed, each step amplifying the claustrophobic dread. Then she heard a faint hum, like a lullaby distorted through warped speakers, seeping from the walls. She rounded a corner and froze. A steel door, reinforced and padlocked, stood at the end of a corridor. Luna whined, nosing the frame, her tail rigid. Claire pried the lock with a crowbar, her muscles straining, and the door groaned open. Inside was a living space, unnervingly normal. Bunk beds, a small kitchen, a television looping grainy footage of burning cities. The Harpers, Jack, Emily, and Lily sat on a worn couch, their faces pale, eyes hollow. 2 other families, the Martinezes and a couple named the Wilsons, huddled nearby, 8 people total, trapped in this subterranean prison. Lily, now 13, gasped, clutching Luna. "Luna, you came back. I knew you'd find us." Her voice cracked, her shell, collecting bag still slung over her shoulder, stuffed with fresh seashells from Crescent Bay. Claire knelt, her voice soft but urgent. "Lily, I'm Claire, a PI. I'm getting you out of here. Tell me everything Caleb's been doing." Jack, his face gaunt, whispered, "He said the world's gone in nuclear fallout. Chaos. Said we're safe here. But at night, I hear voices in the walls, not his." Emily gripped his hand, her eyes darting to a locked door across the room, marked with that same slashed circle symbol. Lily pulled a crumpled notebook from her bag, her handwriting, shaky but deliberate. "I trained Luna to escape through a vent," she said. "I drew the tunnels," wrote the note. "Caleb thinks we're grateful, but I know he's lying." The notebook detailed Caleb's routines, daily news, broadcasts, fabricated disasters, and ceremonies where he preached about a doomed surface world. He'd lost his wife and son in a landslide 20 years ago, and now he called Lily by his dead daughter's name, Sarah. Claire flipped through the notebook, her blood chilling. One page described a locked room where Caleb spent hours, muttering to himself. Another held a sketch of the slash circle symbol, labeled his protection charm. She pocketed it, her mind racing. "Stay here," she told the families. "I'm checking that room." The locked door was heavier, bolted shut. Claire's crowbar snapped the lock, revealing a chamber that made her stomach lurch. Photos of dozens of families lined the walls, some marked with red X's, others circled. A journal, scrawled in Caleb's hand, read like letters to his lost family. "Sarah, I'm keeping them safe for you. The world can't hurt them here." A map showed other tunnels, branching miles under Crescent Bay, hinting at more captives. The hum grew louder, now a guttural chant, vibrating through the stone. Claire's flashlight caught a flicker of movement, a shadow darting behind a crate. Luna snarled, hackles raised. Before Claire could react, Caleb's voice boomed from the corridor. "You're ruining everything, Claire." His silhouette filled the doorway, his eyes wild, a crowbar in his hand. "They're mine to protect. The world up there's a graveyard." Claire raised her Glock, her heart pounding. "Drop it, Caleb. It's over." But his gaze flicked to a control panel behind her, its red button pulsing like a heartbeat. Luna lunged, barking furiously, as Caleb swung the crowbar, narrowly missing Claire's head. The walls shook, a low rumble signaling water flooding the lower tunnels. "You'll drown us all," he roared. Claire tackled him, but the panel's button flashed, and a deafening alarm blared. Water surged through the floor grates, cold and relentless, as the slash circle symbol on the wall glowed brighter, like a warning from something beyond reason. Water roared through the grates, icy and relentless, flooding the tunnel floor to Claire Novak's ankles in seconds. The air in the underground complex turned suffocating, thick with the reek of salt water and panic. Luna, the golden retriever, barked furiously, her bandaged paws splashing as she led the Harpers and the other captives' 8 souls total through the twisting corridors beneath Crescent Bay. Claire gripped Lily's hand, the 13-year-old's notebook clutched in her other fist, its pages detailing Caleb Ward's deranged world. The slash circle symbols on the walls pulsed with an unnatural glow, as if mocking their desperate escape. "Keep moving," Claire shouted, her voice echoing off the slick stone. The tunnel shook, loose rocks tumbling from the ceiling, as Caleb's sabotage turned the labyrinth into a death trap. Jack Harper, his face gaunt, carried a trembling Emily, while Diego Martinez, a fiery 16-year-old from the captive families, helped the Wilsons navigate the rising water. Luna darted ahead, her instincts razor-sharp, sniffing out the safest path through the maze. "Claire, the vents this way," Lily yelled, pointing to a narrow passage 20 feet ahead, where she'd trained Luna to escape. But a steel grate slammed down, blocking the exit with a bone-rattling clang. Claire cursed, her Glock useless against the reinforced metal. "He's got this place rigged," she growled, scanning for another way out. A shadow loomed behind them. Caleb Ward emerged from the darkness, his crowbar dripping with tunnel muck, his eyes blazing with a twisted mix of rage and devotion. "You're destroying everything," he roared, his voice cracking. "The world's a graveyard up there. I'm their only hope." Claire shoved Lily behind her, leveling her gun. "Drop it, Caleb. You're not saving anyone. You're living a lie, calling these people by your dead family's names." She held up Lily's notebook, its pages open to his scrawled letters to his lost wife and son. Caleb flinched, his grip tightening on the crowbar. Lily stepped forward, her voice fierce despite the chaos. "You're a monster, Mr. Caleb. Luna knew you were lying, and so do I." Luna snarled, hackles raised, her teeth bared as she inched toward Caleb. The water surged to their knees, the alarms screaming louder, the glowing symbols casting eerie shadows. Before Claire could fire, a new voice cut through the din-cold, clinical, female. "Enough, Caleb. You're compromising the experiment, Doctor." Sarah Klein, Crescent Bay's trusted physician, stepped into the light, her white coat smeared with dirt. Claire's blood ran cold. Sarah, who'd treated half the town's kids, held a syringe, her eyes glinting with a chilling detachment. "Experiment?" Claire snapped, her gun swinging between Caleb and Sarah. "What the hell is this?" Sarah's smile was razor-thin. "Behavioral control, Claire. These families are my subjects, perfectly isolated, perfectly malleable." Caleb's little savior fantasy was useful, but he's getting sloppy. She gestured to the control panel behind her, its red button flashing like a heartbeat. One push, and this place floods for good. Data preserved, subjects expendable. Lily gasped, clutching Luna. "You helped him keep us here?" Sarah shrugged. "Science de mon sacrifice, kid." Claire's mind raced, piecing together the evidence. Sarah's medical records in the locked room, detailing psychological manipulation. Caleb's journal mentioning a guide who'd shaped his delusions after his family's death. Sarah had been pulling the strings, using Caleb to build her sick laboratory. Luna lunged, sinking her teeth into Caleb's arm. He howled, dropping the crowbar, and Claire tackled him into the water, cuffing his wrists with a zip tie. But Sarah darted to the panel, her finger hovering over the button. "You can't save them all, Claire," she taunted. "The Keeper will finish what we started." Claire fired, the shot deafening in the confined space. Sarah crumpled, the syringe rolling into the water. But the panel sparked, triggered by her touch, and a new alarm wailed. The walls groaned, water gushing faster, threatening to swallow the tunnel. Claire grabbed Lily, shouting, "Go, now." Luna led the way, barking frantically as the group stumbled toward the vent. As they fled, a monitor on the panel flickered to life, revealing a grainy feed of another underground complex. Dozens of faces staring blankly at a camera, their eyes hollow. Caleb, bloodied and cuffed, laughed a chilling, broken sound. "You'll never find the others," he rasped, his voice swallowed by the roar of the flood. The /circle symbol flared brighter, its glow searing into Claire's vision as the tunnel began to collapse. The tunnel groaned, a dying beast, as water surged to Claire Novak's waist, icy and merciless. The /circle symbols on the walls pulsed with an unearthly glow, mocking the frantic scramble of the 8 captives behind her. Luna, the golden retriever, barked hoarsely, her bandaged paws splashing through the flood, leading the Harpers Jack, Emily, Lily and the Martinez and Wilson families toward the vent Lily had marked in her notebook. Claire's flashlight flickered, casting jagged shadows, as the ceiling shuddered, raining dirt and stone. "Move now," she yelled, shoving Lily forward. The 13-year-old clutched Luna, her eyes fierce despite the chaos. The vent, a narrow slit 30 feet ahead, was their only shot. Diego Martinez, the teenage firebrand, kicked at a rusted grate blocking their path, his boots slamming with desperate force. "It's given way," he shouted, as Jack and Emily helped the others squeeze through. Claire glanced back, the tunnel collapsing 50 feet behind, water roaring like a tidal wave. Luna scrambled through the vent, followed by Lily, then the others, their breaths ragged in the claustrophobic dark. Claire was last, her Glock still drawn, half expecting Caleb Ward to rise from the flood like some deranged specter. The image of Dr. Sarah Klein's body, slumped by the control panel, and Caleb's cuffed, laughing form burned in her mind. His words, "You'll never find the others," and the monitor showing another underground complex haunted her. As she crawled through the vent, the tunnel's final groan shook the earth, and she emerged into Crescent Bay's fog-choked dawn, 100 yards from the lighthouse. Rachel, Emily's sister, waited on the cliffs with FBI agents, her face crumpling as she saw the Harpers. "Claire, you brought them back," she sobbed, rushing to hug Lily, who clung to Luna. "I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me yet, Rachel," Claire said, her voice grim, wiping mud from her face. "There's more out there. I can feel it." The captives, shivering in the 55-degree morning, were wrapped in blankets by medics. Jack and Emily, their minds warped by 3 years of Caleb's lies about a ruined world, stared at the ocean like it was alien. Lily, though, stood tall, stroking Luna. "You're the bravest dog in the world," she whispered. Luna's tail thumped, her eyes bright despite her battered body. The FBI swarmed the site, sealing the collapsed tunnel. Caleb, dragged from the wreckage, was eerily calm, his wrists cuffed, his gaze fixed on the lighthouse. Claire confronted him as agents loaded him into a van. "Who's the keeper, Caleb?" she demanded, holding up a coded letter from Sarah's files, marked with the /circle symbol. "Where's the other complex?" Caleb's laugh was hollow, chilling. "You think this ends with me? The keeper's watching, Claire, always watching." His words hung in the fog as the van door slammed shut. Forensic teams scoured the tunnel's remains, recovering Sarah's medical logs, detailing her experiments on the captive psychists of fear, compliance, and isolation. Caleb's journal, soaked but intact, revealed his obsession with saving families, rooted in the 2002 landslide that killed his wife and son. But the coded letter, found in Sarah's coat, was the real bombshell. It referenced the Keeper, a figure orchestrating a network of underground prisons across California's coast. A map fragment, tucked inside, marked 3 more sites, each with the /circle symbol. Claire stood on the beach that night, the lighthouse looming 200 feet away, its long-dead bulb flickering once, twice, impossibly. The fog curled around her, thick and oppressive, the waves whispering secrets. She clutched the coded letter, her fingers tracing the symbol. "Whoever you are, I'm coming for you," she muttered, her voice swallowed by the wind. As she turned to leave, a shadow moved in the lighthouse's doorway, a figure, indistinct, watching her. Claire's hand went to her Glock, but the figure vanished, leaving only the echo of footsteps in the sand. Her phone buzzed with an FBI alert. Another family, missing 80 miles north, their car found abandoned near a coastal cave, a slashed circle carved into the dashboard. The fog thickened, the lighthouse pulsed again, and Claire knew this was far from over.